The Francis are not the devas. I don't think there are a lot of devas come over here because I'm not a monk. So the seat is really prepared for you. Okay, I think just now when Brother Joe opened up the session this morning, he started by asking you, how are you today? All right, and I think I'm glad to hear many of you responded and then say, good. Okay, just now he also reminded us to switch off our mobile phone. Okay, I think I'll be a bit guilty now because I will allow you, actually I want to use your mobile phone now, okay? But you just keep it in the silent mode, all right? Yeah, this morning when I wake up and then when I grab my mobile phone and then I check, there's a WhatsApp group from my high school friends. And then there was one message posted, which is a picture. And the message actually says something like this, okay? We are all prisoners in our handphone, with our handphone. That's why it is called cell phone. Well, which is very true, you know, because like in the past, before the era of smartphone, right, when I travel on MRT or public bus, then I always use the time to meditate because I have nothing else to do. I cannot read anything. But now I think the tendency is getting more and more towards grabbing our phone and do something about it. Okay, either reading or anything. Okay? Yep. Okay, I want to use the mobile. I want all of you to use my mobile phone, your mobile phone, because my session will be more or less interactive here. Okay, basically, if you don't respond, I have nothing to say. Okay, yeah. So what I want you to do? Can you just go to your Safari, okay, or maybe your web browser, and you go and you click this website. Okay, you type in this website www.menti.com. All right. Okay, disclaimer, this doesn't use a lot of data, so should be okay. Okay, no need to sign in anything, but once you are on the website, you can actually key in the code 331392. Okay, yeah, the code is still live on the first line. Okay, yeah, so I just asked you a very simple question. Okay, are you a Buddhist? Okay, this question is not for evaluation. So these questions are really for reflective practice here. Okay, so for your reflection. Okay, so as you type in, notice that the responses will come, okay, on the screen. Okay, like for example, now I see there are 35, okay, keep growing, 37, 38. Wow, that's good. I think a majority of you say that you are Buddhist. Okay, maybe I'll wait a while until all the responses are in. Okay, those of you who can't use the mobile phone or don't have the smartphone, it's okay. I think you can just answer at your heart, okay, because this is really for reflection. Okay, there's someone who say no. Okay, yeah, the number now quite stable. You notice that this is really a reflection question, so it's not about getting right or wrong answers, but just to ask yourself, if you say you are Buddhist, so there's a reason for it. If you say you are not a Buddhist, there's also a reason for it. And I think only you know the reason, okay? And I think and when you say don't know, also there might be a reason for you, okay? I think this is the kind of question that maybe you didn't expect someone to ask you, okay? And last time I was also asked the same question by a monk, okay? Then of course when the monk asked me, are you a Buddhist? My reply immediately was yes, okay? But when the monk asked me the follow-up question, it stumped me a little, okay? Let me show you what's the follow-up questions. Yeah, that's how I felt also. Suddenly, I start to question, right? The first time I was very sure I say yes, but then when I was asked, are you really a Buddhist? Just by adding how many letters? 5 more letters. Things shifted, okay? Yeah. I think about how of you still very firm in your answers. Okay, like yes, I was a Buddhist, and I think this also like affirming your reason why you answer that in the beginning. Okay, but I think quite a number of you actually shifted. Okay, I think from the yes to I don't know, probably because we don't. Maybe at this point we are not too sure. Okay, maybe we are not too sure about the definition, what it means by a Buddhist, or maybe like we are not too sure about what I'm doing has already aligned with what is expected to be a Buddhist practitioners. Okay, so basically what we experience now, what we experience now is what we call the Vichikicha here. Okay, the Vichikicha is what we call the spiritual doubt. All right, the Buddha said that one of the so-called constraint or one of the thing that we have to overcome. Okay, when we want to be enlightened is the spiritual doubt or Vichikicha. Okay, but you notice that spiritual doubt is not something that we can only overcome overnight. Okay, it's something that will always be present. In fact, regardless where we are, as we walk on the path, right, this kind of doubt will always come. Okay, what kind of doubt is this? There are a few things. One is the doubt about the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, of course. Okay, probably if we look at it theoretically, okay, I'm quite sure that I have a strong faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. But I think at the practical and then as well at the personal level, probably that kind of faith that we have, the kind of trust that we have to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha may not be as strong. Okay, for example, when I was younger, right, maybe like about 10 years ago, when I still when I was still interested to learn a lot more about history of Buddhism and so on, suddenly one question popped up in my mind. In the history book, it never mentioned about the Buddha, right? Whether the Buddha was born in India, in which year, and so on. It was never recorded. Okay, but how come in our textbook and in our sutta, for example, we are very sure that the Buddha existed as a person. Okay, so it's something that we have no proof, we have no evidence, but how come we are so sure about it? And then also, like as we interact with people, maybe from different religion, okay, sometimes we also question myself, right? What if the path that I chose was actually wrong? What if my friend is right? What if, let's say, my friend said that, the Buddha is now not in is not in Nibbana, but the Buddha may be in one realm or maybe in the hell and so on. And sometimes we also question, right? What happened if, let's say, my friend is right? Okay, so this is a normal state of mind, a normal question as well. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with doubting the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, in the sense that it's not wrong because we are still in the journey of testifying them, okay? We are still in the journey of investigating whether they are true, and also like we are still in the journey of finding out whether, whether what is stated in the Buddhist text actually is something that is really applicable and something that really produce the outcomes, okay? So that's normal. And now actually I want to ask you about the next one, the next question. Okay, the next question, hang on, actually should be this one. Okay, can I ask you, what are the goals of practicing Buddhism? This one is an open question. You can key in anything. Yeah, you are given up to 3, but if you only have 1, it's okay. Okay, just type it in. Okay, of course, in this word cloud, as if you are familiar with it, the biggest font size shows the top so-called voted word, right? Like for example, now based on this number of responses, I can see that peace is the winner. Right, you notice that the biggest is peace. Peace, happiness, and then there's nibbana or enlightenment. Okay? Of course, there are some words that are actually having the same meaning, but they are grouped or categorized differently here. Okay, but among there, also there are a lot of other goals in practicing Buddhism, right? You notice that there are goals, even like those who look smaller, but actually you notice that actually it's something that is more personal and more meaningful to maybe some of us, okay, as we practice and go through it, all right? Interestingly, right, among all these goals, we know that the ultimate goal of practicing Buddhism is attaining the perfect peace, ultimate happiness, okay, attaining nibbana, enlightenment. Those are the biggest one, are really the biggest goal, okay? Then the rest are really the smaller goals that maybe we want to achieve along the way. But interestingly, if I ask you this question, the next one, okay, it has been revealed before. Yeah, I want to attain nibbana in this life itself. Okay, some of you has given the response. I think if you haven't, you can type that in. In this life itself, meaning before I die, I should be enlightened. Interesting, right? I think there are some of us who really have strong determination. I think we have like very noble aspiration that in this life itself, I want to get enlightened, okay? And I think I really salute you for that, okay? Because as a lay people, to get enlightened in this life itself may not be easy, okay? But yeah, I think to a number of us, also like we feel that it's not our goal in this life, maybe next life, okay? And then for many of us, I think we are not too sure, okay? We are not too sure whether we want to attain nibbana in this life itself. But I think this is a very important question that we have to ask ourselves every now and then, all right? Because sometimes if we don't have a goal and setting the right goal, okay? So we may not put in the right effort and also come up with the right plan to achieve that one. So in the end, the practice become like a by the way kind of thing. You see, like if I have time, I will do that. Okay, if I have the opportunity, I will do that. But do we actually want it? Do we actually see it as our important goal that we want to attain in this life itself? Okay, but as I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, because if you look at human's life journey, right, you can see that there's no single goal that we can always pinpoint. Okay, like for example, yes, we want to attain nibbana as our ultimate goal of practicing Buddhism. But do we want to attain it in this life itself, okay, or do we want to attain it in the next life, and so on, okay? But importantly, in the Buddhist framework, right, when we look at happiness in our life journey, it will transcend across these three lives, or these three time frames, okay? First is the happiness in the present life, okay? You don't need to go to the level of nibbana to attain happiness in this life itself, okay? I think you all know that in this life itself, we want to be happy, okay? We want to avoid doing bad things, okay? Like you noticed just now from the responses in the first question, there are a lot of goals that really showcasing what we want to achieve in this life itself, okay? That's the happiness in the present life. And also like the happiness in the future lives is like we want the future rebirth, right? I want to be reborn in the good realm. Okay, so when I die, I don't want to go to the lower realm. I don't want to be born as an animal. I don't want to be born as a hungry ghost. Okay, I don't want to be born in the hell, all right? But I want to be reborn in the good condition as a human being and so on, okay? But even if we talk about human being, you notice that human beings also have a lot of spectrum. Being reborn in Singapore and being reborn in Africa or being reborn in the Middle East will give us totally different conditions to allow us practicing the Dharma. Okay. First, of course, the chance to meet the Dharma, but before that, at the very basic, the chance to even meet, the right conditions for us to live. Okay. So if we are reborn in a country where hunger is really prominent, okay, and war is really like outside of our door and so on, I don't think we can live peacefully. In such situations, we can't talk about, go to the Buddhist center and listen to the Dharma talk, okay? I think even to go out of the house, okay, and then to go somewhere to buy food is already like very difficult, okay? Yeah, so there are a lot of spectrum of the human conditions, even if we thought that being reborn as a human is already good. So probably we will refine our goals. So not only being reborn as a human, but being reborn as a human in what conditions. Okay? And of course, the ultimate goal, it is the Nibbana. Okay? But there's one problem here. I think if we just focus our goal only on the present life, or maybe like the immediate future life, so how we make sure that in the next future life, we can be meeting the Dharma and then we will be able to reach enlightenment in the end. Okay, because there are a lot of uncertainties, especially when we look back. When we look back, like why we are reborn here, right? Probably there were countless of lives that we have gone through in the past, okay? And until now, I haven't succeeded, you know? It's like I have taken the test, fail, and then like until now, I still haven't really passed the test, okay? Yeah, that's why actually framing our mind to set the goals is really important here. So eventually, whatever goals we set, right, we have a clear mind map. We have a clear map, like this is what I want to achieve in this life. And then if I want future life, what kind of future life that I want to have, and I want to have certain kind of assurance, if I'm reborn in the future life, I'm able to lead myself to Nibbana in the end. Okay, yeah. So as you can see that my sharing here will be a lot more reflective kind of sharing, right? I'm not going to passing on a lot of information to you. But I think some of you have mentioned just now, right, that some of you want to attain Nibbana in this life itself, and then many of us are not sure. Actually, during the Buddha's time, the Buddha always focus, when we talk about disciples of the Buddha, always refer to these 4 assemblies. And I think until now, it's still true. Okay, 4 assemblies meaning there are monks, there are nuns, there are male lay disciples, okay, and there are female lay disciples, okay. There's a term for each of them, okay, the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, and then upasaka and upasikas, all right. None of them are superior than another, actually, all right, because the Buddha actually immediately stated right from the start, right, this is the scenario when the Buddha actually met Mara after he attained his enlightenment. Okay, the Buddha revealed it in Mahaparinibbana Sutta. So the Buddha actually revealed it because in the story, before the Buddha passed away, right, before the Buddha attained Parinibbana, Mara actually come and approached the Buddha. Okay, then after that, Mara was the one who reminded the Buddha. Mara told him that when you just attained enlightenment at that time, Mara actually persuaded the Buddha to, hey, you just pass on now. Okay, he said that now you have attained your final goals to be free from suffering and then to attain the state of purity. So you are now enlightened being. So your final goal has been accomplished. Okay, so Mara actually persuaded the Buddha, then in this case, you should just pass on. So no need to continue live on, because if you live, also like there's no meaning in life because you have attained your ultimate goals. Okay, but this is what the Buddha replied the Mara. Okay, so Buddha actually told Mara that I shall not come to my final passing away until my bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, laymen, and laywomen have come to be the true disciples. Okay, that means at the start, the Buddha already envisioned that he wants to establish, okay, a community consists of monks, nuns, male lay disciple, and the female lay disciples. Okay, and the reason why the synergistic elements, okay, that surround this community is actually both are supporting one another. For example, if everyone become the monks and nuns, right, how can they get food? Because monks and nuns are not allowed to so-called produce their own meals in a way. Okay, basically, monks and nuns are freed their time. Okay, so they can be focused more on working on their spiritual goals, and for their daily necessities like like the meals. Okay, and then like the food. And then like the shelters, okay, and then the medicine and all, it's really for the lay people to provide. Okay, so there's a duty for lay people to the monks, and there's a duty for the monks to lay people, which is actually for the monks to lay people is to teach them the Dharma, to guide them, and so on. Okay, so these communities are something that are envisioned by the Buddha, and that's why I said none of them are really superior than one another, because we are all at the different states of our journey. Okay. You notice that some of us are ready, maybe like to become a monk, and then I think you may have come across some people that they are no longer interested in all the worldly affairs, and to them it's like they have a strong sense of urgency that I need to go to the forest, you see, becoming a monk and then just do a practice there. But there are many of us who are not ready. I think if I'm asked, am I ready if I'm sent to a forest to meditate? I feel I don't think so. At the moment, I feel like if I go for a meditation retreat, I still feel like a decent space, like maybe like a temple, okay, something a little bit indoor. So I'm not so distracted by the other external factors. Then I can be focused over there. Okay, but if you ask people who have gone for a retreat in the forest, the story is totally different. All right, like for example, my friend in Indonesia, right? He went for a meditation retreat in the forest. So whenever he went there, the situation is not like what we imagine. Oh, you go to a quiet place, very secluded, and then so you have no distraction. So now it's just time for you to just settle down and then meditate and just enjoy. He said that whenever he closed his eyes, okay, in the forest, a lot of thoughts about the defilements that he's facing, okay? All the poisons in the mind are really clear to him. And sometimes this kind of thought become very scary, okay? He said that when he went to the forest, right, meditate there, he said that what you see is really black. It's not dark, but it's really black. So the visibility is actually almost none. So what you see is really totally black color, and then a lot of sound, a lot of nature sound, okay, and sometimes like the sound you don't know whether it's real or not real, or is it the sound that in your mind or the sound that really come from outside, okay, so all these are defilement because like when he focused on the object, of course he's getting scared, but I think eventually he realized actually what he's facing is really the true nature of his mind, where the fear come from, okay, what kind of perception that he went through when he had this experience. Okay, and then like one of the interesting story that he shared with me was when he was listening to a Dharma talk, okay, by a monk. He went to the forest in Thai, right? In Thailand. In Thailand, the monks couldn't speak English, okay? In Thailand, the monk, especially the forest monk, they really just speak a local language, speak Thai. So whenever people sit down to listen to the Dharma talk is conducted not in English. So can you imagine if you just sit there and then like listen and then like the monk who speak in different language, how can you actually understand and get to know what's the content of the sharing, right? So he didn't know. So at first he was a bit distracted. Then suddenly he saw one snake pass by. One snake passed by. His first reaction is maybe like what most of us will have lah. Immediately he jumped, right? And then he shouted, "Bante, there's a snake." The monk just ignored him. The monk just continue with the Dharma talk. Then he felt like, oh, maybe I shouldn't reacted that way. But after that, his focus become like totally off, He can no longer focus on the Dharma talk. First, the Dharma talk is in Thai, something that he didn't understand. But secondly, his focus is like, would the snake come back? And true enough, after 5 minutes, the snake actually pass by again. Then he jumped again and then shouted to the Bante, "Bante, there's a snake." This time around, Bante responded. Bante is very kind. If you read the sutta, Buddha always wait for the third time. After the third time, then he will address it. But the monk was very kind. So the second time, after he shouted that, the monk immediately turned to him. He told him, with very limited English, he asked him, "Come, you saw a snake. Which one is more important, Dharma or snake?" Then his reply was, "Dharma, Bante." In that case, why you focus on the snake? Come back to the Dharma. You see, you are really facing your own hindrances, okay? Anything, your mental hindrances really real to you when you have to practice in that situation. So I don't think all of us are ready for that, right? Yes, but I think most of us here, who are still chose to pursue the path of the householders, okay, so become a lay people, okay, we don't become a monk, so obviously we will have to run these two wheels, okay? So basically the first one is the worldly welfare, all right? Because unlike monks that were so-called like get a scholarship that they don't need to worry about their daily necessities, and then like people will provide for him. But actually that one is the assumption that we have when we look at the cities monks, because like the lady people are everywhere, and then there are always people who go to the temple and bring food. But I think my friend who went for a forest retreat in Myanmar, he told me there will be days that they went for Pindapata, that means the alms gathering in the morning. Then in the end, they gain nothing. Because like they really see no people, and then even when they saw no people, when they see some people, right, some people don't want to donate their food. So in the end, they really have to pass the day without any food. Okay, so it's not really totally enjoyable for the monks, only to worry about food. Okay, but in many cases, actually, they really have to suffer. Okay, because like there's no food. If there's no food, what do they do? Do they pay attention to their hunger, or they should actually go back to their spiritual practice, right? So it's not easy. Okay, but for us who normally pursue these two, okay, worldly affair and spiritual affair, there's a question about how do we balance them. Okay, so we can still be on the path, and then we can actually achieve our goals. At the same time, also we have to make sure that all ends are met. Okay, yeah. There's a sutta for that. Actually, if you read the suttas, the Buddha always addressed the monks and the householders quite differently, right? Like for example, one of the sutta that the Buddha explained in a little bit more details about what the householders will do, have to do, is actually in this sutta called Digajanu Sutta. Okay, the Buddha over there systematically classify. Okay, there are two welfare that you have to pursue. Okay, worldly welfare and spiritual welfare. So the Buddha said that you must earn your wealth. Okay, no one own a living to you. Okay, so you have to really work hard. But the Buddha also mentioned that when you work hard, you have to work righteously. That means you have to work within the boundary of the 5 precepts. Okay, so you work hard, earn your wealth. So when your wealth are earned righteously, so there's no reason that you shouldn't enjoy your wealth. Okay, so the Buddha said you must enjoy your wealth. At the same time, you must also have to protect your wealth. People may say, oh, it's an attachment. Yes, but it is a necessary attachment. You cannot just, earn righteous wealth. For example, you work hard and then like you get your salary and so on, but in the end you gamble it away or let people actually steal it from you, take it away. Cannot, right? You must protect your wealth. Okay? So that's also part of the duty of the householder, protect your wealth. But at the same time, Buddha also mentioned that you must build spiritual friendship, and then you must also work towards balanced livelihoods. Okay? Then at the same time, the Buddha mentioned that besides pursuing this worldly welfare, you must also pursue the spiritual welfare, which is you must continue to develop your faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Of course, develop doesn't mean like you just believe Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, then I have strong faith, and then like become a blind faith. No, but through your experience, okay, you actually test and investigate more, and in the end, your trust in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha is getting more and more, or much more stronger. All right. Then you must also develop your moral virtue. Okay, keep the precepts and all. Then charity is important, and the last one is wisdom. All right. Okay. Now the question is, what is the balance for us? Okay, the balance between spiritual welfare and worldly welfare. All right. Can I just take you to the Mentimeter again? Just to check about this. Again, no right or wrong answer. Yeah, majority of us feel that we only spend less than 20% of our time every day, right, for Dhamma practice. Okay. So if I go back to here, right, I think there's an issue, all right, generally, I think from what you shared, there's an issue when we see Dhamma practice as a separate activity that we have to do outside of what we do daily, okay? Like probably maybe just now what you meant by Dhamma practice is probably every day because I'm so busy, I hardly have time to meditate, okay? I hardly have time to maybe like go to YouTube and listen to Dhamma talk, okay? I hardly have time to really pick up a Buddhist article and read, about it. Okay, so probably because of that model, then we think that we spend maybe less than 20% of our time in our Dharma practice. Okay, but actually when we talk about balance, right, we shouldn't think Dharma practice and what we do in daily life as something that is totally separate. Okay, okay, this is my daughter. All right, I want to show you the first time I recorded her when she managed to ride a bicycle. Okay, this was 2 years ago, all right? So she wanted to learn to ride the bicycle, and then she learned how to balance, and then it's very hard, okay? Then one day, she managed to get it, and this is the video. Yeah, no need sound, no screaming or anything. Everything was done with full mindfulness. You see, I asked her immediately after that moment, okay, that she managed to balance it, and then like, you know, once she get it, I think she managed to ride to a certain distance, right? And she said that she's very happy, okay? So I asked her, what do you do? Of course, she couldn't explain. She said that she's just trying her best to balance it, and in the end, she find a way how to balance them, okay? So what I want to say here is you notice that the two wheels here, you have to see it as a whole system in order for that to be balanced. You cannot see that one wheel is stronger than the other, okay? Or one wheel is actually like, should be less functional than the other. But you have to see them as a whole system, only then you'll be able to find your balance, okay? That's why actually the proposed ideal model, because when you see them as a whole balance, right? Actually these two circles should be coincide, okay? And not only coincide, I think I draw the Dharma practice bigger because I feel Dharma practice has to be placed on top of our worldly goals, okay? So in other words, are we able to see what we do normally? In fact, even as we, you know, having a good time with our friends, with our family, all right? Even in our job, as we do our job, because to be frank, most of the time we spend with our work, right? Rather than at home, okay? Can we see that as a Dharma practice? Okay, of course, I don't have the answers for everyone, but I think at this point, I think I will just share with you a little bit my reflection about what I do. I think some of you know that I'm a teacher. Okay, I'm a teacher in the secondary school. Okay, so as a teacher, we have a very long working hours actually. Yeah, this is the latest statistics from the US Department of Education. So they normally every 2 or 3 years they will conduct the tally survey. So tally survey, so partly also to chart, okay, what kind of workload that teachers all over the world have. All right, you notice Singapore is actually one of the highest, besides Japan and then like England and after that Singapore, all right? The red one is the hours spent on teaching, which is I think we spend close to 20 hours, 18 hours for teaching, but actually we spend a lot more for something else, okay? But related to our job, okay? You notice that our working hours totally is about 48 hours, 47 to 48 hours for Singapore teachers, okay? So that means if you divide by 5, it will be like close to about 9.5 hours per day. Yeah, and that one is on average, okay? For me, normally I will leave house about 6 because I take public transport. So I can reach school about 7. Then, so I have a little bit of time to settle myself down, okay? Like checking the emails and then like clearing it and so on. Sometimes when I have to do like a final prep in the morning, so I will have to do it. Then after that, because by the time the lesson starts, then that's it. I hardly have time to react or plan anything, okay? So I just have to go by the motion. And normally I will leave school about 5:30 to 6. So I think in total, I have spent like more than 12 hours outside, okay? And it's true, you know, as a teacher, sometimes when we bring home, when we go home, right, it doesn't mean that we didn't bring any work. Sometimes we have to bring our marking home, okay, or sometimes our preparation can only be done at home and so on. So we spend long working hours. So of course, when I first became a teacher, I start to ask myself first. Last time before that, I was working in NIE to do research. I would say research is a little bit more predictable because like you can plan your working hours, okay? Because it is by project, right? So if you can plan properly, actually you don't need to stay back for too long, okay? You can work efficiently and then you can also plan the time more effectively because you work with data and you work with something that is so-called under control. But to work with people is different. Like for example, there was once, one of my students have some accident or something. So eventually we have to follow up, and that will definitely take a long more hours because you are caring for a human being. It's not like, oh, this is now my working hour is off already, so I can go. It's not the case. All right, yeah. But as I do that, right, as I'm teaching, actually I would have to say that eventually lessons or eventually materials, I'm teaching maths, by the way, it's just a means to an end. Because there's something else that we want to develop from our students, okay? Yeah, in fact, I just screenshot my school motto from my school website. So basically, like, there are certain values. I'm sure every school, every organization will have their values, okay? And we want everyone, including the teachers and the students, or even the staff and the leaders, all right, to actually uphold these values. And in what we do, we have to really teach our students this value. And teaching values is not like you are having a lesson about values and then like you assume that things will run by itself, okay? But there are a lot more things about like role modeling, show that we also emulate that values, show that we believe in that values and so on. For example, there was one quite a funny moment when some teachers, including me, went out with some other groups of people from outside organization, and then after that, we actually have a session in the Tanjung Pagar. Okay, so we have a full session, but we have a lunchtime, right? So during lunchtime, we want to go out for lunch. When we went out for lunch, we want to cross the road. When we wanted to cross the road, we didn't see any zebra cross. So we were wondering how we can cross the road. Do we have to jaywalk? Seems like that's the only decision to be made, you see, because jaywalking, then you will get to the place straight away. Then my friend who is not from the school actually told me, oh, you have an issue, right? You want to go jaywalk? For me, I have no issue because I'm not a teacher. Then he just told me, it's okay, as long as you see that there's no student and now it's still working hours, school hours. Oh, the principal is with me, of course, because we are having a session together. Yeah, but we laugh about it because we felt that, suddenly we feel like being, assuming certain roles, actually we are being highlighted, and then like there are certain expectations in the society that we have to uphold, right? Especially in Singapore, I think it's quite scary, right, with the storm and all that. Yeah, people can pick up. Quite often, when they see students in uniform, then immediately they will snap when there's something that they feel misbehavior, which I feel as an educator, right, which I feel that as an adult, you should actually just go and approach them first. What's wrong with reminding them first about the right thing to do rather than, screenshot it and then send to the school. And then send to the school also for what? You expect us to follow up and then we don't have the full story about it, right? So in the end, the follow-up will become more untidy, basically. And I think I felt that as an adult, you cannot just think about, that's the teacher's job to follow up with that. Okay, actually, it's all of us' job. Okay, but you notice that characters, values are something that is a lot more important than just the lessons. Okay, I'll show you some of the things that my students wrote to me. This one is from my students last year. Okay, and I think you can read. There are two separate notes here that I show. Basically, these two notes give me a little bit more insights about their experience, how they feel, and about what are actually the important things that they learn through the education, okay? Then you notice that certain keywords might be quite telling, all right? That development of their characters is more important. Okay, I think like the notes on the right show us that I think the students value when we develop them as a person rather than, as someone to produce a certain grade, okay? And I think in the first note, you'll notice that also like they mentioned about they really see our sincerity and genuinity, okay? And when I link it back to Dharma, right, the Buddha actually mentioned about 6 principles of cordiality, all right? Of course, when he spoke to this, he spoke to a group of monks, all right? But when I read through the suttas, actually there's also something that is applicable to us whenever we have to work in the society or work with people, okay? I think I have highlighted the words, all right? Like for example, we have to maintain our bodily act of loving kindness. But more importantly, is the red word that I highlighted at the end, openly, both openly and privately, okay? So verbal acts and then mental acts of loving kindness, both openly and privately. And then like the fifth one, I think is something that is very telling, is about maintaining virtuous behaviors, okay, both openly and privately. So when I teach my students about integrity, for example, okay, one thing that they get when I ask them, okay, what integrity means, right? Actually, the essence is really about you must always do the right things even when no one is watching you. Example, if you're not allowed to eat in the classroom, okay, but during recess they saw that no teachers around, and then they secretly eat, and then because they don't get caught, and then they are not booked, so they feel that they are still righteous to do it, is something that is wrong because there's someone who is still watching over you, which is yourself. Okay, so the Buddha actually mentioned that there should not be any stain. Okay, so you cannot do like double characters, like show outside like that, and then like inside you are doing it like that. That's why there's an issue where with teacher, for example, when they interact with the students, sometimes they really feel very strong, like I don't want my social media to be in the interaction with my students, because sometimes they feel that, oh, I don't want my students to see this is what I'm doing outside of my lesson time and so on. Okay, but to me as an educator, we cannot just portray our role as a teacher whenever we are in school, and then like outside of that we are not a teacher. I think people won't see it that way, lah. People will see it as a whole integral system of a person. They will not label you as what teacher, but they will label you as what person and what person. Okay? Yeah, so I think if we go by this principle, you notice this is actually a practice of the Dharma here. How can we continue to keep precept? How can we continue to do the wholesome actions? How we can continue to cultivate students positively, continue to do our job positively, okay, while maintaining it both privately and openly. So that means the genuinity actually come over here. And I think when the students sense it, that sends another message, okay? I have a student who told me that she didn't think about being a teacher, okay? But she said that she's always inspired with seeing how I do my job as a teacher, because she felt that this is something like what someone in the profession has to do it. And I applaud her because I told her, yes, what I'm modeling to you is not about being a good teacher, but what I'm modeling to you is about doing the right thing in whatever that we do in life, okay? Yeah. And just now we talk about work, right? Now I talk about family, okay? Before I get married and before I have kids, right? I thought that, okay, my life is quite peaceful enough, you see, and then, I think I have developed certain maturity in my spirituality. Okay, but after we get married and then we have children, then suddenly we realize, actually what we thought we have that quality is actually not true, leh. Yeah, like last time I thought that I was quite a patient person, but now when you see the kids are doing something, so you can get impatient and so on. Then in that case, what do we want to blame? Are we going to say that, actually I regret I shouldn't have kids, and then like I shouldn't do that, then I will have more peaceful life? Actually not true, because this is actually another challenge, another problem that we have to solve in our practice of the Dharma. Okay? The fact that we are still impatient when we are given another conditions shows that our maturity is not there yet. Okay? We are still developing it. And I think, as you all know, like in the organization, when you want to develop person, you will always give assignment to the person, something that is a little bit out of the comfort zone, right? So the person can, we can actually see how the person actually react to that, and then also like for the person to also learn new things. Because if everything is in our comfort zone, there's nothing else we can learn, and we thought that we are good enough. Yeah, like the story of someone who actually thought that he is a very strong meditator, and then like already developed like a good quality of mind, but immediately like once he went to the outside world, and then with a little bit of disturbance, the person get distracted again. So only then we know, he or she know, right, that we are not there yet. So it's like that, because what the Buddha talked about enlightenment is not something like we are in the peaceful conditions, but we can be peaceful in whatever conditions. That's why he always used the simile of the lotus, because he said that lotus grow in the mud, right? So it's a very dirty area, but its purity will stand up. Okay? Yeah, so it's understanding the true nature of dukkha. And in fact, when I first, this is the photo when my first daughter was born, so it's about 6 to 7 years ago. I started to realize, the idea of birth is dukkha. Because when my daughter was born, of course, we are all very happy. But observing her day to day, right, I noticed that actually she has no control of her life, over her life. Okay, because everything is really controlled by the parents. So I start to question, what happened if she's not born as my daughter? What happened if she's born in someone else's family, okay, like someone else as the parents? For example, to decide on the immunization. So for us, we will read out first and then like decide, oh, I think this one is necessary, this one is not, and so on, okay? But what happens if she's born in a family that maybe don't really care about it and maybe just immediately anything also take and so on? So probably the outcome will be a bit different, yeah. So that's actually point back to me to thinking, right? If I die one day, then I'm reborn. How to make sure that the parents will take care of me is a skillful parents. I think that's really a genuine concern as well. Okay, I'm not so concerned about in my old age whether my children will take care of me or not. That one I'm not too worried. But I think question mark is really like if I'm reborn later on. Okay, what kind of family I'm born into? Will I be born in the skillful with the skillful parents and so on? Okay, yeah, and also like you notice that as child develop, maybe on the first few years of their life, they totally have no control over what they do, okay? Like I saw parents, for example, like, oh, they felt that, eating, getting the kids, the baby to eat is actually very fun. So I think sometimes before even the appropriate age for them to start eating, right? Like solid food, like over here is about 6 months. I think maybe about 3 to 4 months, and they already like introduce solid food to them because they said that, oh, it's fun to have the baby to eat. It's very cute. So, but I think to me, it's like, again, you have to check your motivation. Are you doing it for the welfare of the baby or for the welfare of you, your interest, you see? Yeah, so as a parent, I noticed that we are given a different condition, different tasks, different situations that prompt us to actually think deeper about what we do. And I think also to penetrate about understanding the nature of dukkha as well. Okay, this is another situation. Okay, you notice the picture on the left is my first daughter. She's now almost 7 years old. Okay, and then the second one is my second daughter, right? This is the picture when they are about the same age. One revelation that I had when I carry my second daughter, because that day suddenly, I carry her, then suddenly this kind of thought came up in me. I felt like, hey, I realized I really enjoy this feeling, the feeling of carrying my child and then like with this size, not too heavy, right? But there's a certain warmth and so on. But can you imagine if I have to carry my first daughter now? I remember 2 years ago when she was sleeping in the bus and I have to carry her. Then suddenly the thought was like, are you so heavy? I think now I'm getting older and then like, can you walk on your own? Something like that, you see. But I think we forget that one day they will also refuse us to carry them in that way. And I think when the time comes, probably we may miss those moments, okay? Moment that we didn't really treasure when we have it, but after it passed, then we start to long for that moment, okay? So that's also a dukkha actually. Because why it is a dukkha? Because things are impermanent. Things are constantly changing, right? That's why it creates a dukkha, it creates suffering. Yeah, and I think this is one moment again. This is about 2 years ago. So we went to Changi together, but actually we were on different planes because I was going to a conference in Japan, and then like my family, okay, went to Indonesia. So they want to go home. And this is because my flight is the evening flight, okay? So their flight was much earlier. Their flight is like about 6 p.m., but my flight is at 2 a.m., right? So I was in the Changi with them, so have lunch together and then like play together. Then this is the moment that they are already go into the boarding area. Then I realized that I cannot go in already because now this is really the departing points. So it's like I suddenly felt that I'm separated from them. I can see them, but yet I cannot be close to them. You see. So this kind of thought suddenly pop up, and I realized actually being departed from, being separated from, from your loved one is actually suffering. Like this is one real scenario lah. Like I still see them there, we still can interact, okay, but we cannot hear each other's voice, but we cannot touch each other already. So like certain limitation already imposed. I cannot touch, right? Although you can see and so on. So can you imagine when we are separated totally? So it will be like another level of dukkha. Right? Yeah, that's why actually all this experience, if we link it back to Dharma, right, we will understand the true nature of dukkha. First thing first, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have family and so on, because in whatever path that we choose, there are always dukkha. okay? But more into like in whatever our experiences here, are we able to actually use that as a learning point for us so we can understand the nature of dukkha? Because if we don't, then basically we still haven't passed the test lah, because we really have to develop ourselves to be able to overcome that. Okay, to be like the lotus that I mentioned earlier. All right. Okay, I think this one I don't need. This one I can skip. So eventually what I see in all this, right? Actually, I should see my family as a spiritual friends. Okay, because being with them, okay, so maybe sometimes we can think that, oh, this become our distraction, this become our limitation, constraint. But actually think about it, they provide us with all these opportunities to understand Dharma better. So we really have to treat them not only as someone that we guide, but also we have to treat them as our spiritual friends, as people who are also on the path, okay? They are on different, at the different juncture of the path, and then, but eventually we help each other to attain our goals, okay? All right. Yeah, so that's just a short sharing from me, okay? But eventually, bring it back to the essence of my sharing is really about how we can actually develop these three goals together, okay? So we shouldn't just lose sight of other goals because we pay too much focus on certain section of the goals. Remember, this is the whole framework, okay, the whole maps. And of course, I think just now to answer the question about how to ensure that our future goal is always beneficial, that in the end it will get us to attain Nibbana in the end, right? Of course, things that is within our control is we can aspire to be stream winner in this life itself. Okay, during the Buddha's time, that's always the ideal for lay people. That, okay, you become a Buddhist, so now what you need to do is you have to attain stream winner. Okay, and during the Buddha's time, it's much easier, of course. Okay, but for us, we can actually aspire and put in our right effort to do it. Okay, how to? I think there are other talks about this. Okay, and maybe like in future when I give my sharing, I can also share about what's the quality of stream winner, and then like what we can do in relation to what we do in life. Okay, but if you can't wait for that, right? You can also Google the Samyutta Nikaya 25. Okay. You'll notice, actually, if we continue to cultivate the perception of impermanence, like what I modeled it to you just now, okay, see impermanence in whatever things that we experience, it will lead us to stream winner sooner or later, okay? Even the Buddha actually gives assurance, if you constantly practice that, you will attain stream winner before you die. Yeah, of course, there's a certain words, there's a certain message and weight carried. Like it's not just literal that every time I think about impermanence, I will get that. Okay, but it's really how to put it into our practice, and then like how we can actually develop the insight into it. Okay. Yeah, to summarize, I think we should aspire to be the true lay follower. Okay, so basically, although we are lay person, we should actually cultivate all this. We must have faith, and then we have to be morally virtuous, and then like doesn't believe in rituals, have to invoke luck, okay, relies on karma, and I think we ground ourselves in the teaching, in the Dhamma. Okay, my last reflection here for you. Yeah, probably share with us what is one of your key learning point that you have from the session. So this is the chance for everyone in this room to learn from one another. Okay, thank you so much. I think, yeah, in whatever sharing, you notice that how to make it relevant is really the learning points that we draw in our life, into our life relevance, right? Yeah, and for different people, there may be different dimension, different aspect. So I think from here, I also learn from you what are the things that is, important, and also like how to inspire others to be on the path. And maybe the very last one, what is one action that you want to do to enhance your spiritual practice? I try to do something more practical, like one action that we can do, okay? Okay, I will leave the screen to scroll on by itself for a while. Okay, maybe do we have time for one question if you have?
Any question? Open for parenting tips, mathematic question, tutorials. Really, no question?
You're like my students at the end of my lesson. Any questions? No.
Maybe we should use the Mentimeter.
Yeah, in future lah, but I think.
Okay, yeah, time is.
All right. So I
ending
think with that, thank you so much for your time, also like for listening attentively. Okay. And also thank you so much for sharing and responding to the Mentimeter here. I think I really learned a lot from your responses as well. Okay, so may all of us keep in our practice, and then may all of us attain our goals, spiritual goals in due course. Okay, thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu.